must unlearn what you have learned.
Hello there. Come here, my little friend. Don't be afraid.
Away with your weapon. I mean you no harm.
Kill him. Kill him now.
Do it.
You failed your guys. I am a Jedi, like my father was one.
What's going on, everyone? Robert from the Remote Control here, and yeah, I just got finished watching the last 2-3 episodes of Star Wars Rebels, and holy shit, there's a lot going through my head. Simply put, and the first thing I did right after it was over is I text my co-host Colton. I go, holy fuck, man. Wow. The feels, the questions, the excitement of what's to come. Rebels ended brilliantly. And it truly did. The thing about Rebels, and I've said this so many times in the past, it's one of those shows that when you watch it, there's times when you're like, you watch an episode and it's just like, what? Come on. This episode was not worth, putting aside 25 minutes to watch. But then there were episodes that were just absolutely phenomenal and you just wanted more and you wanted to continue that more. The series finale here absolutely knocked it out of the park. They wrapped up everybody's story that needed to be wrapped up. However, it also left a lot of things open. I gotta say, like, it was phenomenal. It's just absolutely phenomenal. Now, I'm going to say this now. There's going to be spoilers in what I'm going to talk about here. So if you haven't seen the finale or any of Rebels, I recommend not listening to this until you see the entire show in its entirety. Everything. That's all I can say now. I'm not very prepared. I don't have notes or anything because I wanted to do this raw. I wanted to come off of watching the episode and just talk about it. Unfortunately, I don't have anybody here with me to talk with about it, but hopefully you guys who do actually listen, will message me and we can talk about it on a Facebook group or on Twitter or whatever, or what have you, because I'm telling you, this series finale was, it's not what I envisioned last year, 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, whenever they announced this was going to be the finale. It's not what I envisioned and how I wanted it to end. But it delivers. It gives me everything that I need, plus more. And I'm not disappointed at all. And that's probably all you can really ask for from a series finale, especially one that's, based within Star Wars and the Star Wars galaxy. So, honestly, we know, obviously, if you've been watching Rebels and everything like that, you know that a couple episodes ago, Kanan sacrificed himself to save his friends, but in doing so he also helped destroy the most important aspect of what was going on Lothal for the Empire, and they were utilizing the resources there and doing the TIE Defender program. Now, from what we understand, is there was 2 big programs going on within the Empire during this time. You have Project Stardust, which we learned about in the movie Rogue One, ends up being the Death Star, and that's being, led by Krennic, and he's pushing through. And then you have the Defender Project, which is being led by Thrawn, Grand Admiral Thrawn, and he's trying to lead the way with that. In the middle here, which we don't see too much of in the show, but we actually did get a glimpse of him this season, was Grand Moff Tarkin. And it's very interesting because you really get this feeling of Grand Moff Tarkin. He's kind of playing both sides of Project Stardust as well as the Defender Project, because he wants to get on the good side of the Emperor. He wants to be the man who goes to the Emperor and like, look what I've accomplished. Meanwhile, he's not doing anything. He's not done a single thing at all. But the whole time it looks like he's actually leaning more towards the Defender program, at least from what I gathered in the very short amount of time that he showed up on Rebels. And even with what happened on Rogue One, you know, he was doubting Krennic and the Death Star and everything like that. Well, once, you know, the Defender program was destroyed this season, you know, with the help of Kanan destroying the fuel depot and everything like that, you know, and of course we didn't see it, but you know that's what started to push Grand Moff Tarkin toward the Death Star and Project Stardust and everything like that. Very interesting. I think that it was brilliant to kind of weave that in a certain way, and not just say, look, this is what it is. No, it was, you know, you got to read between the lines a little bit, and that's what's so great about this show. I think they tiptoed the line so well of saying, look, yes, we know other things are going on in the galaxy with the rebels, with the Empire and everything like that, but this is a story in and of itself, separate from all of that. And, you know, we haven't, with the exception, I mean, Rogue One, yeah, kind of did that, but this is really the first story that took place right around the time of the original trilogy, that is now canon. That is canon. It's not part of the legends or anything, but, you know, it toes that line. It's right there with what is going on, but not diving into what's going on. And I think that's one reason why I really enjoyed this show. On top of giving us such interesting characters like Ezra, Kanan, Sabine, Hera, Zeb, and Chopper, you know, they gave us characters that you could really you know, get attached to, and in a way, you know, I know, like, Kanan at the end there, the last season or so, he wasn't that entertaining, or not that entertaining, but that interesting. And I think a lot of that had to do once he went blind and everything like that, and there just wasn't much for him to do. But you got to remember, the story was essentially Ezra's story. From the very beginning, that opening shot of the very first episode of the very first season, it's Ezra's story. And that's the thing that they had to push. They had to make Ezra get to the point where he was at the end of this series, at the very finale, like that scene at the end, you know, where, you know, again, it's his story. He's there with Thrawn on that Star Destroyer, and you have the space whales, or whatever they're called again, you know, there, and they're literally, you know, it's a fight between Thrawn and Ezra. And look, I loved the Thrawn trilogy. I thought it was an excellent trilogy. I think the person who they got to voice Thrawn was exactly how I pictured or heard his voice in my head when I read that trilogy. I mean, it was spot on. It felt like Thrawn. It looked like Thrawn. Everything was great about it. Yeah, I understand there's some issues, because there was always like, he's supposed to be the great tactician, and every single time something would happen, he'd go, well, that was unfortunate, but we'll do this. Oh, well, that's unfortunate, so we'll do this. Oh, look, I didn't think that was going to happen. You know, a little unfortunate, but we'll do this. Like, that's kind of what happened all the time with Thrawn, and kind of took away from his overall, you know, tactician mindset that you got from reading the Thrawn trilogy that's in Legends now. But overall, he was an excellent character, and not as menacing as, say, Darth Vader or Darth Maul was in the past, or some of the other villains that we've seen in Star Wars, and through especially the cartoons. But he was a good villain for what this story needed. And that moment at the end when Ezra is standing face to face with Thrawn, and, you know, Thrawn's like, look, you know, what happens to me happens to both of us. And Ezra's like, that was the plan. Like, you think I didn't think this through? And to me, that shows the growth of Ezra. And it's just getting back to this being his show. This was his story. This was about him. So the growth that we saw with him from season 1, episode 1, all the way up to the end was phenomenal. I mean, from being a street rat, very Aladdin-like, which, you know, there was always those references to Aladdin early on in the first season. Not in the show, but, you know, people would make the comment, oh, he's just like Aladdin. Look, the hair and the way he looks, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but that's who he was. They had him start from nowhere and take the hero's journey. And it's always tough to always do a hero's journey. I mean, they've done it in Star Wars how many times? So trying to make it fresh, make it new, something different than what we've seen before is difficult to do. And it's all about the obstacles that are put in the way of the hero moving forward. And with Ezra, I think they did some excellent things because, for him, the thing that kept holding him back for so long were his parents, and him missing his parents and him wanting to prove to not just himself but to his parents that he can be the man that he should be, and a great man that they would have always hoped for him to be. And that really plays a big role in the final episode because it's him finally letting go of his parents to save his new family. And again, that's another theme that's been going on this entire series, is family. And the Ghost crew became a family. You take a look at earlier on in the season, when they go and help Sabine, with the Mandalores and everything like that. That's something that a family would do. That's where they would go to help a family. With Hera, there's a lot of story on her background about her family and her heritage. Kanan, we didn't dive so much in with family, but he came from a completely different background, being raised as a Jedi and everything like that. So that's a different story. You have Zeb, his whole family, his I can't think, his race of beings, there's that whole idea about them being completely eliminated and eradicated. But, again, there's so much that this series did well. And again, I know that some of the episodes weren't great. I know that some of them were downright horrible and just boring and lame. But when it mattered most, this show was able to get you right where you needed to be. It got you right to how we needed to see everything happen. So, we just talked about, I just talked about everything that was great, what has come, what has come out of Rebels and everything like that. Now, this finale, you take a look at what happened. So, you have Ezra. Did he sacrifice himself? Sabine seems to believe that he's still alive. There's a bunch of articles that have come out I've seen on different websites. I've yet to read them. Again, I wanted to watch it and then jump on and just let loose with what everything that came about. But I haven't read these articles. So, I saw there was a headline somewhere where Dave Filoni, confirms somebody is alive. I don't know if they're talking about Ezra. Is he actually alive? Did he die? To me, what happened in that moment, going into hyperspace, and obviously all the windows being, broken, they're in space. I don't see how he would survive that. I also am curious if Thrawn survives. I know that it's, we want to know what happened to Ezra, but I really, really, really liked Thrawn's character in Rebels, and I would hate to see him go this early on. Like, there's so much they could still do with Thrawn in the background of the main Star Wars story. Whether it's out on the Outer Rim or something else, some side stories that just aren't going on with Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, and Han Solo. You do some stories like that with Thrawn, I think would be fantastic. And even, I know that there's been some books and everything like that have taken place after Return of the Jedi, but you could, again, bring him back at that time as well in some form or fashion, which, again, I think would be an excellent, excellent idea to do and continue his story because he is such a compelling villain. But getting back to Ezra, is he alive? Is he dead? So, what do you think? The story or the series of Rebels ended like this. It time jumped to the end of the original trilogy. Sabine, is talking, and she, is narrating that, the Empire fell at the Battle of Endor, and we find out that Rex was there. We find out that Hera was there. We also find out that Hera had a child, which, what? that caught me off guard a little bit there. Not really sure how that happened, and they're like, oh, we all know who his father is. That's probably the only bad part about that episode, because I'm just like, do we though? We know who we want it to be, but how is it possible? But again, we know that there are certain characters in the Battle of Endor, and that it took place, and it's in, obviously we know who comes out victorious, and the Emperor falling and everything like that. But Sabine now is going with Ahsoka. So Ahsoka, so we now know Ahsoka has been around through the entire original trilogy, which excites me beyond belief because there is so much that they can do regarding her storyline. She has become one of my favorite characters in the Star Wars universe, and my hat's off to Dave Filoni for that, because the first time you watch Ahsoka and that original Clone Wars cartoon and movie, it just this is going to be some throwaway character. How are they going to fit this character into Anakin having a Padawan? There was no mention of him having a Padawan in Revenge of the Sith. So how all of a sudden does he have a Padawan and within no time she's gone? Well, Clone Wars did an excellent job in building her character, much like Rebels did with Ezra. And a couple weeks ago, whenever they had Ahsoka come back in the episode where they go into that like space-time, continuum area thing, when she came back, I was so excited to see her back, and that gave us knowledge that she survived, that she is not dead, that she lives. So I kind of had a feeling that she was going to be the one to come and help and rescue at Lothal. And when it didn't happen, I honestly wasn't upset, because honestly I didn't even think about her at the time, because the show was so compelling. It was so good that I was so involved with what was going on screen. I didn't think about Ahsoka. But when she shows up at the end, like, you see that figure in a cloak, and I was like, wait a minute, is that... Holy crap, it's Ahsoka. I started freaking out. I got so excited, because we know Dave Filoni is going to be announcing his next project soon. Is it going to be on Disney XD? Probably not. Maybe. I don't know. Or is it going to be on the Disney streaming app that's coming out? If it's waiting until 2019 for that new streaming service from Disney, that's gonna suck, because we got a year, at least a year, if not more, because I think that streaming service isn't supposed to come out till like fourth quarter of 2019. So we got a year, almost 2 years, until we see something new, and that's if they launch that show with the service, the app, or whatever it is. So I hope they come up with something sooner, because the way this show ended, and it just gets you excited for what's going to come. Are we going to go after the Return of the Jedi? Are we going to have a show after that with Ahsoka, with Sabine, searching for Ezra? I would love to see that, because Sabine seems to think that Ezra is alive. I really don't know. I couldn't tell you. There was some finality to the way that he was saying goodbye to everybody, until that message that Chopper played on the Ghost, where he goes, "I can't wait to come home again." I was sure that he was dead. He was gone. I don't know. Like, I don't know where they could go with it. I think the possibilities are endless, just because when it comes to post Return of the Jedi, and you have post Return of the Jedi between The Force Awakens, there is a lot that they could do. Yeah, we have 5 books, 6 books that kind of cover that somewhat, and then you have Battlefront 2 storyline, which I thought was an excellent storyline, but I think that they have so much potential and so much that they could do during this time frame that I can't wait to see what they have in store for us. So I don't know. I mean, there's so much more. The how brutal these last episodes were. It's a kids show, and you have the Lothwolves going around and doing everything but ripping apart stormtroopers. Like, there was a moment where one wolf picks up a stormtrooper, and another wolf comes up and picks up the same stormtrooper from another. I thought they were going to rip them apart for a second. It was pretty brutal, obviously, because it's on Disney XD and it's a kids show. They weren't going to show any blood or gore, but they're throwing stormtroopers off ledges, throwing them against walls. I mean, there was so much death and brutality in these final couple episodes. I was shocked, but I was kind of happy to see that they were like, look, this has some real stakes here. There's a lot that's going on, and we're going to show that it's intense. This is an intense battle of Lothal, and the fact that they came out victorious doesn't upset me, because it wasn't the rebels. It was just a small band of friends, a family that actually took back Lothal. It wasn't the rebels. So, where people, I know I've already seen some complaints, oh, how did they have their first victory on Lothal when they weren't supposed to have their first victory until they got the Death Star plans. Well, technically the rebels didn't get this victory. Yes, they are rebels who were fighting at the Battle of Lothal, but at that point in time, they separated themselves, and they established this many episodes ago that they walked away from the rebellion because of how important saving Lothal was to Ezra. And for everything that Ezra had done up to that point, they felt that they owed it to him. And again, the same thing is said when they go and get the other clone troopers and everything like that. They're like, look, for this kid, we'll do anything. That's Hondo. Like, he's, look, I'll do anything for this kid because of what he has sacrificed and done so many times for all of the people that he's come across and met. And that's how important Ezra has been to everybody. And that's why his story, his hero's journey, was, I think, done superbly. It really was. And again, I when we sit here and talk, and I talk more, there's nobody here with me, but the more I sit here and talk about it, it's like, do I really want to see them go and find Ezra? Because I feel that his story ended perfectly. I would love to see him again, but where are you going to take his story from here? That's just kind of my thing. Of course, now all the theories are going to come out. Oh, he is Snoke or something like that, or you know what's going to happen now, because we know that if it's possible that he survived past everything that happened, that's just going to be the rumor. People are going to start saying, oh, he's this, he's that, he's this. Maybe he's a Knight of Ren, or maybe he, again, that's what's going to happen. There's going to be theories. I don't think he's ever going to turn dark, because he had his opportunity to a couple seasons ago. And I think what really changed him from going that direction completely was everything that happened with he and Darth Maul. Actually, I take that back. What happened between him and Darth Maul was pushing him towards the dark side, but everything that happened between him and that conversation on everything, but that conversation he had with Obi-Wan Kenobi on Tatooine, I think really is what put him back on the right track of staying to the light and not going to the dark. And from that moment forward, there was never any mention of him going dark again, which I think was a smart move, because that was right in the middle of all of the Snoke theories, or the DJ theories from The Last Jedi, where people thought that he was going to be one of the two characters, if not both, or something. I don't know. The theories are crazy that are out there. Trust me, I've had some crazy theories myself from what's going on in the Star Wars universe, but some of them were just downright ridiculous. Look, guys, I've been talking for 20 minutes here about Rebels. I gotta say, look, the feels, I got choked up multiple times in the finale. I give Dave Filoni so much credit for everything. And the great thing about Dave Filoni, he's from my hometown of Pittsburgh. So, I love talking about Dave Filoni. I love seeing that, a guy from Pittsburgh was able to impact not just my life, but so many other people's lives, like he has when it comes to Star Wars. But my hats are off to him and his team over at Lucasfilm. They did a hell of a job. They've continued doing a hell of a job, regardless of the crappy episodes that we got here and there. Overall, they knocked it out of the park with this series, and I am looking forward to what comes next, and I hope it's soon. I hope it's much, much sooner than later. But yeah, let me know what you guys think or thought of Star Wars Rebels. What did you think of the finale? What are your theories on what's going to happen moving forward? Because again, at this point, we know Ahsoka lives. I always go back to that day at Star Wars Celebration when Dave Filoni had a shirt on that said Ahsoka lives with a question mark, and then they showed the trailer for Rebels, and when the lights came back up, he had a shirt on that said Ahsoka lives with an exclamation point. And I always knew that Ahsoka didn't die. I figured that, and I was one of the few. I know there's a lot of people like, no, she's dead. How can she survive that? That was a ghost of Ahsoka or whatever. I always figured that she survived, but now knowing for sure and knowing that we could potentially get more with her, I am beyond excited for it. So do you think we're going to see more Ahsoka? Is she going to be part of the next series that comes out? Or is she going to be used sparingly like she was in Rebels, where she was there for almost, a half a season and then pretty much gone and just showed up every once in a while here and there? Let me know what you think. I am all for talking Star Wars Rebels right now. Jump on to Facebook, look up the Remote Control Podcast group. I'll have a link below. You can click on that, join our group, find me on Twitter at the remote control. That's at the remote CNTR or CONTRL. At the remote CONTRL. You'll find me there. You can talk to me on there as well. It just sucks to see this show go. It's been a fun ride, a lot of ups and downs, but an emotional end to a great show, and I hope you all enjoyed it. I know I did, as you can plainly tell in the 25 minutes that I've been talking. I know Colton right now, he's going to be watching the finale, or at least the last couple episodes, so hopefully he'll be able to talk about what transpired. I tried telling him that he needs to watch the entire series before he watches the finale, but he's being stubborn and just going to watch the finale because I said how good it is. But yeah, let me know what you think, and we'll probably talk, Colton and I will talk a little bit about it on next week's episode of The Remote Control. And Star Wars talk will be coming back probably middle of April, so keep your eyes and ears open for that, because we're going to be doing a lot of Star Wars talk episodes leading up to the release of Solo, a Star Wars story. I'm getting a little more excited about it. I know that Colton is as well, so hopefully you guys are also. But with that, thanks for listening to my gushing over Star Wars Rebels and how great of a show it has been. I just wanted to get this off my chest. I didn't want to wait a week to talk about it with somebody. I just wanted to get it out there to you guys, the loyal listeners that actually listen to our podcast, and I can't thank you guys enough for continue listening, and hopefully you pass this on to your friends and family. Maybe not your family. I don't want your mom listening to this. Some of the language in our show isn't that great for your mom or your kids. So with that, thanks for listening, and I will talk to you all later. Take it easy.
Hello there. Come here, my little friend. Don't be afraid.
Away with your weapon. I mean you no harm.
Kill him. Kill him now.
Do it.
You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.